Aptis Speaking Practice Test 4, Advice and B2 Answers.
In this video, we're going to give you advice about what you should include in your answers. We're also going to give you ideas on how to start your responses and some sample answers at B2. There is no timer in this video. We recommend that after watching this video, you go back to the original mock exam version of Speaking Practice Test 4 and try it again. We think that you'll notice an improvement.
I'm going to ask you 3 short questions about yourself and your interests. You will have 30 seconds to reply to each question. Please tell me about some places near your home.
Try to use a variety of structures and vocabulary. Here are some ideas to get you started.
I live in a residential area, so there are lots of houses and blocks of flats near my home. There's also quite a good variety of shops, although if I need a large supermarket, I have to go to town. There aren't any cinemas or theatres nearby, but there are lots of bars and cafes. What's the weather like today?
This question might seem very basic at first, and it can be hard to give a full response. But you need to try to include a variety of structures and expressions, as well as weather vocabulary. So be imaginative. For example,
the weather forecast said it was going to rain today, but it's actually sunny and warm. It's not typical weather for February at all. It's usually much colder at this time of year. The nights have been chilly, only about 10 degrees. A lot different to the temperature today. It's about 23 degrees. Please tell me about your holiday plans.
Try to include a variety of future forms as well as expressions and vocabulary to do with holidays. You can also include some conditionals and modal verbs. For example,
well, I'd usually have booked my holiday by now, but this year's different because of the pandemic. If it's possible to travel abroad in summer, I might go to the UK. If not, I think I'll go to the coast. But I'm definitely going to spend the holiday with my family. Part 2. In this part, I'm going to ask you to describe what is happening in a picture. Then I will ask you 2 questions about it. You'll have 45 seconds for each response. Describe this picture.
you have to describe the people, what they're doing, what they're wearing, but more importantly, especially at B2, speculate as to where they are and how they might feel. Give reasons to support your ideas. Focus on the useful language of speculation and deduction. In this part, we're giving you sample B2 answers.
This is a cafeteria. It looks as though the photo was taken in a school because most of the people are children and the adults look like teachers. Most of the people are eating, but it could be a motorway cafe too because the children aren't wearing school uniforms and there's a baby in a buggy in the background. The children in the foreground don't look very happy. Maybe they're not enjoying the food. They look about 10 or 11 years old, so it might be a primary school. What kind of dishes do people normally eat in your country?
Try to include some passive forms as well as using typical food vocabulary.
In Spain, it's very common for people to eat tapas, which are small portions of food, usually served in bars. Meat dishes are very popular, and so is fried fish, especially at the coast. Rice is eaten a lot, for example in paella with seafood, chicken or rabbit. Olive oil is a typical ingredient in most dishes, and we follow the Mediterranean diet. We eat a lot of salads, especially in the summer months, and in the winter, stews with meat or lentils. How have people's eating habits changed in the last 50 years?
Here you're being asked for your opinion. Try to give it in a variety of ways. Give reasons to support your opinion. Remember to use the gerund, the ing form of the verb, if you want to use a verb as the subject.
Well, I'd say that our eating habits have changed a lot in the last 50 years. In my opinion, people are more aware of the health risks of eating too much fat or sugar. Keeping fit has become really important, so many people have changed their diets and eat more healthily. On the other hand, our modern lifestyle means that most of us don't have as much time as we used to for buying and cooking fresh food. So I think many people end up eating ready-made meals from the supermarket. Part 3. In this part, I'm going to ask you to compare two pictures, and I will then ask you 2 questions about them. You will have 45 seconds for each response. Tell me what you see in these 2 pictures.
Here, the examiner is asking you to compare and contrast 2 pictures. You need to make sure you cover both photos, so don't spend too long on the first one. It's often a better idea to compare as you go, using words like while and whereas.
The first picture shows a group of people sitting in a circle on the ground, while in the second photo there are 5 people standing in a line. The group in the first picture are chatting to each other, whereas in the second one, all of them are on their mobile phones. Nobody seems interested in anyone else, while the first group are probably a group of friends enjoying a chat with each other. The first picture was taken outside in a garden, whereas the second one looks like a workplace. What type of communication do you prefer?
Here you're being asked about your preferences. Try to vary the way you express them, as well as using vocabulary about different forms of communication.
It depends on the situation. At work, I'd rather use technology such as emailing or messaging for some tasks. But for others, I prefer face-to-face communication. With my friends, I use WhatsApp a lot, maybe too much. It's really useful for making arrangements, but I miss the long phone calls we used to make. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been communicating more and more with video calls such as Zoom, I don't know what we would have done without it. How have new technologies changed relationships we have with each other?
Make sure you use the present perfect to talk about changes. Contrast this with talking about the past. Include structures like used to and would.
Well, as I was saying, new technologies like Zoom have kept us all in touch over a difficult time. If we hadn't had this technology, a lot of our relationships would have suffered, at work as well as at home. But the biggest change in how we relate to each other must be the mobile phone. Most of us have one now, and even grandparents have learnt how to send messages and photos. Being able to get in touch instantly with relatives and friends around the world has made us feel closer. Part 4. In this part, I'm going to show you a picture and ask you 3 questions. You will have 1 minute to think about your answers before you start speaking. You will have 2 minutes to answer all 3 questions. Look at the photograph. Tell me about a time when you had to look after someone. How did you feel about it? What do you think we can learn from such an experience? You now have 1 minute to think about your answers. You can take notes if you want.
Use the minute they give you to take notes on what you're going to say. Don't try to write full sentences. Divide your paper into 3 columns to make sure you include each of the 3 points. Your answers don't have to be equal in length. For example, how you felt will probably be the shortest part. But you must answer all the questions. So make sure you have something in each column. Remember, the photo here is only decorative. Do not describe it.
Tell me about a time when you had to look after someone.
This part gives you the chance to use a variety of narrative tenses and forms. Past simple, used to, would, past perfect. Here are some ideas to get you started.
Well, I've had quite a lot of experience in looking after children over the years. But the first time I really had to take responsibility was when I was 11 and my nephew was born. I used to look after him while my sister went shopping. Then later on, when I was a teenager, I would babysit in the evenings too. The most memorable occasion was when I remember spending hours playing with him and reading him stories. I would take him to the park. How did you feel about it?
Try to include imaginative, colourful adjectives and expressions.
I'd never felt so grown up before. But at first I felt a bit nervous as he was so small. I was scared I'd drop him. But the main feeling was one of happiness. I love children. What do you think we can learn from such an experience?
Try to use different ways of giving your opinion this time. Here's another sample B2 answer.
As I see it, it's a really important life experience. It teaches you to be more responsible and also less selfish, as you have to consider someone else. You can't just do what you want all the time, And that's a fact we should all realise at an early age. The younger, the better. It also makes you appreciate your free time more when you have it. You learn how to make decisions when necessary and how to be the one in charge. To my mind, it helps us develop our social skills and communicate more clearly. I believe it also makes you appreciate your parents and other relatives more. You remember all the times that you've been looked after by others.
We hope this was helpful. You'll find all this advice on our website, together with lots more ideas, sample answers and practice tests. Good luck with your exam.
If you liked this video, then please subscribe to our channel. Leave a like, comment or question and we'll answer you as soon as we can. More information and practice is here on our webpage www.aptistutor.com.